Hi, everybody. I'm very excited about being a fellow in Division 17. It's been my professional home for a very long time, and I can remember sitting out there as a graduate student and early in my career and watching people doing fellow addresses. And I've kind of got goosebumps because now it's my turn. Okay, I'm going to take you on a little journey through my sort of professional life, kind of where I've been, where I got to, and where I'm going from here. I'm a little embarrassed to tell you about my first interest in psychology. I was a high school student, and I took a psychology class, and I read B.F. Skinner's Walden 2, and decided that this is what I needed to do with my life. Now, if you've ever read Walden 2, it's disturbing. If you looked at that now and thought that inspired somebody to be a psychologist, you would be truly worried. But I came from a family that was, let me just say, exciting. It was unpredictable, it was a little crazy. Actually, my husband Steve has commented that in our life together, we've spent as much time disciplining my parents as disciplining my children. So the idea of reading a book where things were like calm and peaceful and nice was just terribly intriguing to me. I decided then and there that I was going to dedicate my life to trying to help people to recover from mental health problems. That I really wanted to, like Walden 2's dream, try to eradicate mental health. I was 17. Perhaps a little ambitious. Okay, but I went on to undergraduate school at the University of Nebraska, where my next really, yay, go Huskers, my next really big influence happened, and that was Donald Clifton and Galen Dodge and the Nebraska Human Resources Research Foundation. And I don't know if you guys know about these folks, but Donald Clifton invented positive psych 34 years before anybody else claimed to have discovered it. So, what I learned there as part of his leadership development program, that was every week a part of my life, that I did leadership development and I worked in projects for them. I learned about human strengths, I learned about resilience, and I had an unbelievable experience in multicultural immersion. Basically what happened when you were part of that project, Donald Clifton's projects, is that you went through a lot of coursework in leadership development yourself, and then you also were expected to sort of work with some group of people to try to sort of help them to develop and improve. And the project I worked with was for migrant and seasonal farm workers who had dropped out of high school and were returning to finish their education. So I lived with those students every day in a residence hall, all day, every day. I lived with them, I worked with them, I played with them. And coming from 12 years of Catholic school in a pretty damned white kind of world, to go to working in that project where there were days when the only white face I saw was when I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. It was a huge, huge experience to me and gave me such an incredible awareness of how different my life was because I had privilege and because I always had a financial safety net, no matter how crazy my family was. So that was huge. Big influence on who I became as a person. And it also absolutely inspired me to not just become a psychologist, but to become a counseling psychologist, because that's where that came from. So off I went to grad school, and my very first master supervisor was Rod Goodyear. And he's awesome. I can verify that not only does he write well about supervision, but he rocks as a supervisor. Okay, and then I went to KU for my doctoral program, and I will always be grateful for my faculty there because I had awesome faculty. Ed Heck was my major professor, who was a lovable curmudgeon. Diane McDermott was my academic advisor, and I thought she was just cool as hell. I mean, how many psychologists used to be Vegas showgirls? She was awesome. And then Jim Lichtenberg was a huge influence throughout my career. I love Jim, and when I'm looking for advice even today, he's who I want to call. And lastly, Tom Krieshock, who made me do all kinds of things in school I don't really want to do that I learned tremendously from. Okay, so about then, I get out of school, and by then, my husband and I, who've then been married for 11 years, have not actually worked in the same city the entire time, and we have 2 little kids. So I ventured into college student mental health by total accident. It was so I could live in the same city and work in the same city as my husband. And frankly, at the time, there was a lot of kind of bad attitude towards working in college counseling centers. The sense was, you weren't going to go do real psychology. You were going to go help people who were homesick or had relationship problems. And so I went from hospitals and a VA internship to working in college student mental health and discovering they're not different. They have the same problems and the same issues at the same levels as in any of those other areas. At the time, there were $0 that went to college student mental health from National Institute of Mental Health. There were $0 anywhere that went into research on college student mental health. And I decided I needed to sort of devote my career to making that different. So I started to do research. Now, I always kind of did research, but people wonder why you do research and publish when you're a practitioner, because you don't get tenure and nobody's ever going to give you a raise or care that you do this. But I'm married to a mad scientist, and he has always liked doing research together. As a matter of fact, he kind of sees it as sort of a form of foreplay. So research was very good for my personal life. So there you have it. But I've done that joke before, so he's kind of used to it. He's sitting up here in front. But I used to joke that when you do research and you publish, 12 people read your studies. The 2 people who are reviewing it, the editor for that issue of the journal, and 9 people writing a dissertation on a similar topic. So imagine my surprise when I wrote a study that got quoted in everywhere from JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, and the Chronicle of Higher Ed, to Focus on the Family and Playboy, and Bill O'Reilly's book. But I'm very proud of that long-term study of changes in college student mental health, because it had probably more impact than, I'm pretty sure, everything else I ever wrote. Really only 12 people read. But that one kind of took off. And it led to the Garrett-Lee-Smith Act, and the research is quoted in the Garrett-Lee-Smith Act. And I've been thanked over and over and over by directors of counseling centers and by counseling center staff for the difference that made in funding, in attention, in recognition of the importance of college student mental health in that work. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of being a psychologist and being a counseling psychologist. So that, I think, is probably some of my most important contributions. My job now is I'm the director of the Counseling Center at the University of Florida. And a number of my staff are here. And thank you. I appreciate your coming. It's really nice to have your support. I do have a completely awesome staff, but I want you to know this is not going to affect your raise. So, all right. So where are we going from here? I am still the idealist who wants to make a difference in mental health. And one of the things that I find a little embarrassing about being a psychologist and being a psychotherapist is psychotherapy in this country is a luxury for the affluent. If you have good enough insurance and you have good enough resources, then you can get what you need. And if you don't, then you're pretty much shit out of luck. So I really want to challenge us, and challenge myself to think about alternate ways of providing effective service. And we're kind of on to a new idea at the Counseling Center at UF, where we're using internet modules and shorter video conference sessions with clients to see if that's not a different way to provide effective services. It's been very effective in other countries and isn't really done here. But what if that works? We have tools available to us that were never there even 5 years ago. And if that works, and you could do something like, for instance, provide a way in every one of the African Methodist Episcopal churches in the South that they could go and use computers there to get effective treatment. And suddenly, you have added tens of thousands of people to those who get effective treatment. I really want to think in the rest of my career about how to give what we have to ever-increasing numbers by thinking out of the box about how to provide that. And that's really kind of where I see myself going, because in many ways, I'm still kind of that idealistic 17-year-old who kind of wants to change the world. So thanks.